My name is Shirly Hook. I'm on the Council of Chiefs with Koasek to Koas. We are located in West Braintree, Vermont, and want me to the story now? Okay. And people came into the world. The creatures that lived upon Mother Earth were able to speak to one another in a way that they cannot do anymore. And so it was with Bear and Beaver. Not only could they speak to one another, they were best friends. One evening, just like many that had come before, Bear was at Beaver's home. They were outside sitting by the fire, enjoying the evening and talking about the day. As often happened, Bear usually turned the conversation to his favorite topic, food. On this particular day, Bear showed up at Beaver's fire looking much the worse for wear. His ears and nose were all lumpy, and his face and arms were sticky and covered with wood chips, leaves, and twigs. Beaver was a bit startled to look up and see Bear in such a state. "What happened to you today, my friend? Are you all right?" "Oh, yes. It looks worse than it is." Beaver watched Bear pull a small needle from his nose. "Did you get stung by bees? They can be pretty mean when their nests are disturbed," said Beaver. "You don't go looking for honey again, did you? I know how you get when you want the taste in your mouth." "Yes, bees will mean all. Yes, the bees are mean, all right. I discovered a hive hidden in a hollow tree. I only wanted a little bit of honey, but the bees did not want me to have any. So I was forced to rip up that old tree they had hidden the honey in. It wasn't a very big stash. There was so little of it for me to have that I can barely remember the taste of it now." Bear answered as he licked his sticky paws and arms, spitting up the wood chips and twigs and leaves. "You and your sweet tooth. One of these days it is going to get you in real trouble. Why don't you go eat berries and dig up grubs like the other bears do?" "Because, my flat-tailed friend here, there is nothing in the world so wonderful on the tongue as a warm, sweet taste of honey. When I find a big hive of it, I will bring you some so that you can understand." Bear licked his paws and began washing his face. "No, thank you," said Beaver. "You know I don't care for the taste of it." And so their conversation for the evening was about the virtues of honey. Bear did most of the talking until late in the night. A few days later, Bear returned to the fire at Beaver's house. This time he was all sticky, covered in lumps of dirt and small stones. "My goodness!" exclaimed the Beaver. "What happened to you this time? Looks like more bees to me. Are you still chasing after honey?" Bear sat down across from Beaver, trying to brush his sticky fur clean. "Yes, as a matter of fact, I did. You know I need to fatten up for the winter, and honey is by far the best food to do that with. I just can't seem to find enough of it. This time the bees had it hidden in the ground. It wasn't very easy to dig either. Their hive was hidden under a large boulder." "Well, you're lucky that boulder didn't roll over you and crush your head," said Beaver. "It would serve you right, too. Why can't you just eat fish like the other bears? Plenty of bears get nice and fat eating fish." "Well, I'm not every other bear. I have special dietary needs. Berries and fish just aren't enough for me to properly fatten up." Bear gave himself a mighty shake. Some of the sticky pebbles and dirt stuck to Beaver. And so their conversation went on, with Bear going on and on and on about the virtues of honey. The ever-patient Beaver just shook his head and tried to convince Bear that other foods were easy to get. Several days later, Bear again showed up in the evening to sit by Beaver's fire. This time, however, he came limping along, one big paw holding his back. He was covered with lumps, branches, leaves, moss, and bark. Beaver's eyes grew big and filled with concern. "My friend Bear, what have you done to yourself this time? How do you get so beaten up? Surely the bees can't do this to you." Beaver jumped up and helped his friend to his seat. "Could I trouble you for some willow bark tea for my aches, and perhaps some thyme and chamomile balm for my bruises and stings, please?" Bear sat down very gingerly, and Beaver patiently disappeared into the house. He returned after several minutes with the tea and balm. He sat while Bear rubbed his lotion over his sore parts and drank his tea. It was only then that Bear was finished with both that did Beaver ask this question. "What did the bees do to you?" "Oh, those evil bees, they're so horrid. to me, they have now built their hives in the very tops of the trees. When I try to climb up to them, the skinny little branches bend and I fall off them. Oh, they break and fall. Either way, I fall out of the tree every time. Some of those trees are quite high up, and this is where they are keeping their biggest and best hives. I can almost reach the honey inside, but always at the end of it, I fall out of the tree. And it's a good ways down too. Bear was nearly in tears. I've been at it for days with no luck. Just falling. What am I going to do with Beaver? Winter will be here before we know it. I need that honey to properly fatten up. Why do the bees keep it from me? Why? By now, Bear was in tears. Beaver wanted to scold him, but Bear was so pathetic that he bit his tongue instead. Let me make you some willow tea, and I will clean your fur. Then I will rub your cuts and bruises with the balm. Will that help? Bear just snuffled, nodded his head. So Beaver made Bear his willow tea. He picked out all the branches and leaves and bark and moss from the bear's fur. Then he rubbed the balm on his nose and ears where he had been stung. And all of the scrapes and bruises were from falling out of the tree this week. It was only then that Beaver was finished that he spoke. My friend, you know that I hold you in the highest regard, and I say this with my best intent toward you. You must stop chasing beehives. Creator has provided a great many foods for you to eat. Many of them are plentiful now. None of the other bears has that problem building enough fat for the winter by eating those foods. Your sweet tooth must be curbed, or it will be the death of you chasing after honey. Look at yourself, all banged up and cut and bruised. The next time you fall, you may break one of your legs. Then how will you be able to find any food to prepare for the winter? Surely you can see this. Beaver just looked away. Bear just sat and nodded his head. Yes, I suppose you are right, my friend. I am lucky that I have not yet broken anything in my pursuit of honey. If only there was a way to convince the bees to give me that honey so I can properly prepare for the winter. Then I'll be a happy and contented bear. One big hive is all I need, just one. Bear sighed, his head hanging low. He was a pathetic sight. Beaver gently took control of the conversation and jabbered about the evening, trying to get Bear's mind into something else. The next afternoon, Bear again appeared at Beaver's fire. He was even more banged up and bruised than the day before. Beaver watched Bear gingerly sit down. Then he made the tea for his friend and brought out the balm. Once Bear had been intended to, Beaver took his seat. Having not said a single word, he just looked at Bear until Bear finally forced to speak. It was a stick. The bees beat you with a stick? No, I climbed the tree with a big stick. It's not as easy than you think, but I did it. Then when I reached way out, I was trying to use the stick to knock the hive loose. Only I got it stuck in the branches. When I tried to yank it loose, I pulled too hard and lost my balance. Then I fell out of the tree. Bear never looked up once while he spoke. He was waiting for Beaver to scold him. He did not wait long, nor was he disappointed. Beaver scolded him at length. But Bear was not really listening. As Beaver was scolding him, he just kept looking at Beaver's mouth, or his teeth. He had never really noticed before how large his teeth were. And in noticing this, the wheels in Bear's mind began to turn. When Beaver finally stopped to take a breath, Bear decided to ask Beaver something. My good friend Beaver, can I ask you about your front teeth? Beaver always felt self-conscious about such large teeth. He covered his mouth with his paw and replied, What about my teeth? Oh, it's nothing bad. I was just noticing how nice and long they are, and that they look quite sharp. Are they? Well, yeah, I guess they are. I never really gave it much thought. He dropped his paw. Oh, why do you ask? Well, I was just wondering if the teeth are sharp enough to chew through, say, a tree or something like that. Beaver could clearly see where this conversation was going. No, I will not chew down any standing people for you, just so you can deprive a family of bees of their home and hard-made food. No way, no how. But Beaver, it'll only be one tree, one with really great hive at the top, just one big hive. Then I'll be all set. I mean, just look at me. My need for honey has prevented me from gathering enough food. I've lost weight every day. Why, just yesterday I was 400 pounds. Look at me now. I'm down to 398 pounds. I'm practically wasting away before your eyes. I just need to get the hive, just one, and my hollow belly will be filled, and I will be ready to face the long, harsh winter. Please, won't you just do this one little thing for me, please? I don't like this idea at all, said Beaver, crossing his arms against his chest. No, not at all. How about I make us some fishing poles and we go fishing tomorrow? Or we could go to the lake and I can help you catch all the frogs you can eat. Or I'll borrow a huge basket and we could spend the day picking berries instead. I don't want to chew through a tree. But Bear's mind was all made up. The two argued right through the night. It was morning again and they were still arguing. Beaver, not used to being awake for so long, was becoming grumpy, and he was getting very tired of arguing with Bear. However, he knew that Bear would never let go of this idea, and he'd be hearing about it every single day until winter came. Beaver simply could not live this way. All right, I'll do that, what you ask, but know this, I will do this only once, one time only, and after you have eaten yourself sick with honey, we'll never speak of it or honey again. Is that clear? Do you understand? Of course. Bear tried to keep the absolute glee he was feeling from showing too much. You have no idea what this means to me, my most cherished friends. Just one tree, just one hive, is all I need. And I agree we'll never speak of it again, ever. I swear. Bear crossed his heart with big furry paw. I swear. Can we all go now? I know just the tree. Without a word, Beaver motioned to Bear and led the way. A deep scowl set hard on his face. Angry at being talked into chewing through a tree, Beaver stomped off after Bear. As for the bear, he was dancing through the forest, leading Beaver to the biggest tree he had ever seen. This is the tree? The one you want me to chew through? Beaver stood looking straight up at it. Bear nodded. Just one tree, like we agreed. And at that top is the biggest hive I've ever seen. It could be more than enough to fill my belly. I've even split it with you. Bear offered, knowing full well that beavers have no sweet tooth. No, that's okay. You can have it all. Bear was bouncing eagerly on his feet. Okay then, you start gnawing the tree. Make it fall that way. I'll be way over there so I can catch the hive out of the tree before it hits the ground. Ready? Beaver just gave Bear a dirty look, then began chewing at the bottom of the tree. He was so angry at Bear for talking him into this. He was also angry at himself for giving in. As Beaver chewed with the fiercest of anger, he found himself nearly through the tree in no time. Here it goes, Beaver shouted to Bear. He could barely see his friend, who was so far away, but he saw Bear wave, and with one final chop, the tree began to lean. Then it leaned some more, and then it began to fall. Bear was ready. As the giant tree fell, Bear positioned himself in the right spot to save the enormous hive from hitting the ground. He was delirious with desire. Bear ripped that hive wide open, shaking out the bees that were inside. Then he began lapping up the sweet, delicious honey. If favors exploded through his head so completely that he wasn't even aware of being stung. In short order, Bear caught his last drop of honey on his extended tongue. Then he rolled it onto his back, satisfaction flowing through him like sunshine. He could hear Beaver's approaching steps. Okay, that's it then. You've had your honey. I'm going home. I suggest you do the same thing. Beaver then turned to go. Beaver? Beaver stopped in his tracks but did not turn around. What? Well, that hive was a mighty big one for sure. It was probably the biggest one I've ever eaten. But, well, I went so very long not eating anything that I was hungrier than ever. And while all that sweet, golden, delicious filled me up, I'm not quite full yet. What? Beaver could not believe what Bear was saying. You said one tree. One tree. Now you want me to chew down another one for you because you're not quite full. Or is that it? We had an agreement. Bear had never seen Beaver so angry. Truth be told, Beaver scared him a little. But the honey is flowing through his body and his brain, and he needed more. Just one more. That's all they want. Just one. Then we can leave this place. Bear waited for Beaver to yell again, but Beaver was so angry he could barely speak. Which one? He asked with gritted teeth. Bear jumped up. It's right over here. He pointed to another tree, nearly as large as the other one. Without a word, Beaver began chewing through the tree. Within minutes, it was ready to fall. Bear ran to his place. Beaver gave it one more chomp, and down it went. Again, Bear was in just the right spot to catch the hive. It was almost as large as the one he had taken before. Beaver watched him from the stump. Then Bear was finally licking his paws. Beaver turned to go. "Wait!" Well, Beaver heard. He closed his eyes and slowly turned around. Then he opened his eyes. Bear was pointing to another tree. Beaver was so angry that he chewed through the tree, a third tree, in just a few minutes. Again, as he turned to leave, he heard, "Wait." By now, Beaver was so filled with anger he could not even think. All he could do was go to the next tree and chew it down, and the next tree, and the next tree, until all became a blur. And as tree after tree fell, Bear gobbled up every drop of honey from inside the hive. Beaver wasn't the only one angry. The adult bees were fuming with rage at Bear for destroying their homes, stealing their hard-made food, and for leaving the babies on the bare ground with no food and no roof over their heads. The cries from the bee children grew louder and louder as more and more of them were dumped out of their hives by Bear. The cries of the bee children became so loud that it caught on the wings of the wind beings. It carried its mournful sound high to the sky. Then the cry of the bee children rose even higher, traveling out to space until finally the cries reached the ears of Creator. "What is this sound I hear?" Creator asked. What are my bee people so upset? I must go at once to see the source of despair." And so Creator followed the cries back to Mother Earth. He followed the sound through the air until he came to the place where a beaver was chewing down trees. Upon arrival, Creator shocked to see one whole slope of the mountain with nothing but fallen trees upon it. What had happened here? As Creator watched, another of the standing people fell. Then Creator looked to the base of the tree. He saw Beaver, and Beaver was headed to yet another tree. Seeing this, Creator became angry. "Beaver, why are you chewing down the forest?" Beaver heard Creator's voice boom out of the sky above, and he froze. Oh no. Creator was here, and he hadn't seen what Beaver had done. Slowly, Beaver turned his head and looked around. He was shocked and horrified at seeing how many trees he had chewed through during the day. He had been in such an angered state that he had not even been aware of chewing down so very many. And Creator had caught him at it. Beaver swallowed hard. He had to face Creator and explain all of this. But how? He could not tell a lie. Creator would instantly know. Bear had made him do this, he thought to himself. But even so, he could have walked away at any time, and he did not. He had let his emotions and his friendship with Bear make the decision to chew down all the trees. He looked up to see where Bear had been, waiting for the hive to fall. He was nowhere in sight, and Creator was waiting for an answer. Beaver swallowed once more, squeezed his eyes shut, and slowly turned around to face the Creator. He opened his mouth to say something, but no words came out. What could he really say anyways? So he just looked up at Creator and waited. "Beaver, what has made you chew down so many of the standing people? Why have you destroyed the homes of the bee people, leaving the children homeless and to starve?" Creator waited, but there was no answer. "Very well, Beaver. You leave me with no choice but to do something so that you learn to appreciate the value of each of the standing ones. From this day forth and forever, until I decide otherwise, your life will become all about the trees. You will need them for you will need them for you home as will be allowed to use. You will rely upon them for your food as also that you're allowed to eat, not just now in the summer when you are green and full, but also through the winter when your life forces burn less brightly. Your entire world will revolve around the trees, so you'll understand the value of every single one, and the small saplings to the mightiest trees. Do you understand this?" Beaver could only stare and nod. He understood what he had said. "Leave now, Beaver, while I put right all this that you have done wrong," Creator spoke. Beaver did as he was told and ran from the mountainside back to his home as fast as his feet could carry him. He could hear the sounds of the Creator working behind him, but do not think we have forgotten about Bear. He too had heard Creator calling out Beaver. He too had been surprised at how many trees he had asked his friend to fall, and how many beehives he had ripped open and licked clean. The air was thick with the sound of buzzing bees. And when Creator first spoke to Beaver, what do you think Bear did? Well, that Bear, he quietly slipped behind the trunk of a tree, out of sight of Creator and Beaver. He knew he was lucky that Beaver had been too frightened to say that Bear was also responsible. He had also heard the punishment Creator had given to Bear. He, Bear himself, far more foods than Beaver did. He did not want to spend the rest of his life eating nothing but leaves and bark and branches. So as Creator was giving Beaver his punishment, Bear slipped quietly away into the forest and over the mountain to the next valley. From there he could not see Creator, and Creator could not see him. It was also a long time before he saw Beaver again. One day he was walking through the forest. The trail he was on took him past a new pond, and in the pond, busy swimming past with branches in his mouth, was Beaver. He was working on a dam and making a good pond. When Bear stopped to yap at him, Beaver also saw Bear. He gave Bear such an angry look that Bear backed slowly into the forest. Neither said a word to each other. It's for the best, thought Bear. Creator may still be watching Beaver. If he sees me hanging around, he may put two and two together. It's probably best to just walk away. Besides, it doesn't look like Beaver has a fire to sit by anymore. To this day, when Bear and Beaver happen to cross paths in the forest, they quickly walk away from each other, and this is why Beaver is always hunched over looking grumpy.
Hi everybody, this is a little sign that my friend made to identify the Koasek section of her garden, which is a sacred corn. Stories have been handed down for generations telling that the Koasek corn was passed down from Abenaki farmers to Jesuit settlers around 1672. Then 300 years later, Sarah and Charlie Callie started to grow the little corn. It was given to them by Carol Green. She was a direct descendant of Newberry's founders. He had chartered the town in 1763. The Green family has been growing the Koasek since they received it from the Koaseks 350 years ago. They made sure that it was not cross-pollinated by any other corn. In 2006, it was gifted back to the Koasek by the Callie family. We are once again the keepers of the sacred corn.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Donna.
You're welcome.